All right. My name's Elise, and I am a student here at Concordia. And not only am I a student, but like he mentioned, I also have a lot of other interests. I am an athlete, I cook, I bake, I nanny, I like going for hikes, I like climbing. I have all of these different things that I like to do. And I didn't always have these interests. You can call them occupations, right? We are occupational therapists, almost. But they're all occupations. And when I started in this program, I was only a student athlete. That was it. And the program forced me to explore other interests, other occupations. To kind of balance my life, I found all of these other things that created who I am today. And my goal of my capstone was to shed light on all of that to other people in the community. And my main focus was looking at the community of Canton, because I went to school in Canton. I was a student athlete in Canton. And my goal here with all these people in this community was to help them find that occupational balance, the meaning in life, the joy that you might have at the end of the day. I started off with the student athletes at Pride Athletics, which is a athletics and physical therapy complex over in Canton, Michigan. And I worked alongside all the PTs and the athletic trainers. The main goal is to help them stay in the game of life. I wanted to redefine how outpatient OT could be in that environment. I focused more on the student athletes at the very beginning. I coached alongside, learning about their body mechanics, teaching them proper body mechanics for a squat, for different movements that we all would do if you're in acute care in any environment, helping patients get out of bed and getting off the toilet safely, ways to maximize their independence and safety. I applied the same principles to athletes, trying to figure out how to move on the field, right? And how to find that safety in that movement. And in doing so, I also wanted to bring that background of being more of a student athlete and losing my balance to that population. So I wanted to create a program to help them find that balance, to support their mental and physical health, their identity, their time management, their goal setting, and overall their quality of life. So if you want to go ahead and look at the deliverables I have on the table, there's the big one with my name on it that has all of the big program that I created for the student athletes. And after creating that program, I learned that the physical therapy patients that I met could also benefit from it, because all of us in this room could benefit from improving our identity, could benefit from improving how we spend our time, whether it's too much time on social media, too much time sleeping, or not enough. We can all improve our quality of life. Just as I worked with a PT client working on his time management and energy conservation to help him support what he wanted to do in life, which his main goal was to be able to come to the gym and work out to maintain the strength that he had, because he knew that at some point in his life he would lose that strength, and he wanted to decrease that risk, right? And in doing so, working with him, I taught him a lot about energy conservation, whether it's the position he's in, what he's doing, how much time he's spending sleeping, or when he's getting up out of his chair. All of these tiny little things that you wouldn't think about, because that's just how we go about life. We work our 9-to-5 job, we come home, we do chores, we try to eat, and we go to bed, and then we do the same thing over and over and over again. That's what he did all of his life until he was 50 and retired, with MS on top of that. So we learned a lot about how to structure his day, and he did very well after working with him. I did a lot of one-on-ones. He was one of the major patients right over here. We worked for a while together. I taught him safety and independence. He used to open up a letter with a steak knife, if that gives you a little bit of perspective on that. So I taught him about letter openers that could help open it up safely. He wanted to be able to eat chicken without having to have someone help him do it. He wanted to be able to get dressed, so we worked on lower body dressing, and I introduced him to a lot of adaptive equipment and different things that he wouldn't think he could buy, like a rocker knife, right? And that's something that could bring him the independence and safety and bring cooking back to his life, because he loved cooking. We talked about making a sourdough company, and he loved all of these different things. And one thing specifically with him too is he has a wedding coming up, and he was feeling very fearful and disappointed that he wouldn't be able to stand at the altar. But he can stand. So we talked about different approaches he could do that were more meaningful, like having his fiance help him stand. And that brought him a lot more joy to his life and the future he has. Moving on from the PT side, a lot of what I worked with were the athletes and helping them find their independence and helping them find just overall quality of life. I had the pleasure of going over to UMass and working with their basketball team. And I worked with having them have a proper upper extremity warm-up because a lot of them were not doing any type of warm-up, and having them have a better understanding of their structured day. If they have a whole day tournament, what can they do in the middle of it in between games that's not going to tire them out? Because they would basically go in the hallways and just like on their wheelchair play tag, right? After a long game. That's a lot on the rotator cuff. So I taught them different approaches like brain games or playing games as a team to be more unified. And it helped a lot with their attention too. A lot of them have ADHD, and it helped them figure out how to communicate as a team. You have the team bonding over the brain games. And then you also work with just overall how to structure your day, right? And then my main job at the very beginning of Pride was to observe. So for the first maybe 3 to 4 weeks, I observed the populations, and what I found was all the information I gathered from the student athletes, I could apply to all the PT patients. So I brought the materials, the program that I have on the board for you guys here, all the sleep and identity programs I brought to the PT patients. So I was able to better approach them because of the observation that I did and bring my own lived experience with that. And during the time of the Capstone, I also had the ability to go over to the Arnold, which is a sports festival in Ohio, and I competed myself in that event, and I was able to communicate with the mental health team there, the medical team there, and learn more about what the issues that were there. And a lot of it was weight cutting, anxiety, panic attacks, because when you go out on the platform, you are the only one, and you get 1 minute for each lift, basically. And it can create a lot of anxiety because you spend 14, 12 weeks preparing for that meet at minimum. And a lot of the athletes there were pretty young, and I found that talking to them about what to do before you go out helped them a lot. We talked a lot about brain games before, because if you're going out on the platform, a good way to decompress is brain games, music, podcasts, things that kind of help you, just ground you, right? And then on top of that, from that experience at the Arnold, I learned that kids are the ideal population to help instill these good habits. So I worked with DCFC at Pride, and then also Special Olympics at Pride, and then Canton High School, all the soccer teams, and I helped them try to figure out what they could do to optimize their life, which a lot of it came down to, are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough? Are you taking enough time in other things in your life? Are you just a student athlete? And I have more information on a lot of the athletes who did it, but I felt that it was too specific in terms of it's personal. Identity is personal. I didn't want to share all of that. But a lot of the athletes who I did the project with, I found that their perceived occupational balance is a lot higher than their actual occupational balance. In talking to one athlete, he tore his ACL. He told me that he was depressed and that he was having a hard time in life, and to the point where he had to leave high school early one day because he was so sad. He couldn't get through the whole day. And I sat down and worked with him for quite a long time, and I found out that the only things in his life that he found value in was an athlete. He didn't care about being a student at all. He only wanted to be an athlete, and he lost that identity completely. So he had no meaning in life. And we worked for a long time about trying to figure out how we can add meaning to his life. He ended up adding playing video games for FIFA and being able to play with his friends online FIFA, his teammates that he used to play on the field with, and that helped a lot. He got into doing art, which he loves now, and this all adds to recovery, because if you are in a positive headspace, you sleep better, and if you're in a better mental health space, you can improve your physical health more. So alongside PT, I supported them by the mental health side and also the OT side of just quality of life, right? Because a lot of people end up getting an injury, and it makes a big impact on their life. And if we can be there to support them, it's kind of the whole goal, right? Add meaning to their life and support them with where they're at in that time. Overall, I enjoyed my project a lot. I made a lot of good connections. I love UMass. They were great in terms of I was able to observe different populations doing different things, but ultimately the staying in the game concept of the athletes who played adaptive sports, and over here the DCFC kids, it was no different. They had the same opponent of facing whether it's lack of sleep or decreased occupational balance. It didn't matter where they came from. Yes, the UMAs, they did more in their life. They have a lot more to say. But they all had the same challenges in life. They just wanted to play their game and have fun. And it was great to see all of these different things come into play. Any questions? Dr. Kirsten?
Yes. What's the biggest thing you learned about yourself through this journey?
I learned that just because I started occupational therapy does not mean that that is all I am, right? I think I was able to combine a lot of different things I enjoy. I combined my coaching, I combined my nannying, and it meant a lot to me. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Renner.
I'm just so proud of you, how much you've grown.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And I looked through your handouts, and they're so you, which I really loved. And very, anyone can go through that and use that. So I really appreciate how well you adapted those. What was like a super fun, aha, like special moment you had with one of your athletes or patients while you were working that really made you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, like this feels like an OT?
The athlete, when I say athlete, I think everyone in that room, whether they're PT or coming in for athletic training, is an athlete. I believe everyone in this room is an athlete because we all have a challenge in life. We all have an opponent, right? This man right here, all right, he made the biggest impact in terms of my future because he's part of SJ5K, which is a 5K at PSEP. He is Jesse, so he's the guy who, he made it all happen. It's a gigantic 5K that they raise money for different families. And a lot of the families they have, it's this Sunday, my mother took care of, right? And it's part of like a bigger thing in my life. And a lot of the families that have been past families in that organization, I knew and I took care of when I did a feeding and swallowing like OT assistant job. And everything was kind of a full circle because I was able to meet him, and he also wrote a book that I used to read 5 years ago to all these families that I used to work with, and it meant a lot for sure. And I do plan on going on Sunday to help him and whatnot, yeah. But go ahead.
You talked about the student at Canton who tore his ACL. How can OTs be or help kids like him be more proactive in considering occupations? I've seen throughout my time in education so many kids that when sports are taken away, just feel so lost and lonely, and it's difficult for them. So how might OTs be more proactive in helping them see all these other occupations or vocations that they have that they can still participate in?
Of course. I think it begins at being more proactive at the very beginning when you start. All the athletes that I coach independently, I try to focus on that identity piece, right? And all the coaches that I met through Pride, I did the same thing with them. I encouraged them to support the athletes in finding other hobbies. I had them have the kids make a bucket list of things they wanted to do. Because if you think about it, we probably all have a bucket list, and some of us might not even touch it until we retire. But when you retire, you don't, your physical identity is kind of impacted, right? You might not be able to do the things that are on that bucket list. So the concept is try to have these kids make a bucket list when they're younger and tap into all these different things when their body works in the way they want it to, right? But for him specifically, I talked with his mother, who was a teacher, and we spoke a lot about different approaches in the gym class to add in to try to improve their quality of life from that beginning. But in the moment, like after the injury happens, me and the PT, Joe, we spoke on how to have this program implemented during the injury. And he did pretty well in terms of adding things to his life while he was injured. But he still, I think from 1 to 10, 1 being like very low balance, which he came into, after we ended, he was at like a 6 or a 7. Yeah. Any other questions on that?